All right. It gives me great pleasure to offer this moment of teaching to two amazing people, David Rakofsky and Amy Guth. Let me take this moment, David and Amy, and there will be others, to offer my enduring thanksgiving. David, to you for so many contributions to leadership as our vice president. But in this case in particular, all the work that we've been doing this summer for our High Holy Day preparation, which the pandemic has summoned a whole different approach, which we're learning as we go along. You have steadied our process and helped us stay on task because there's a ton of details and a ton of things that have to be prepared. And I thank you for all the time, the generous time you've put in. Amy, you have been a stellar volunteer in so many different ways as well. I've enjoyed studying with you at Columbia Business School, spiritual entrepreneurship. We've done some cool things with a Blue House initiative together. And of course, your contribution to all the pre-production, the sophisticated pre-production, you and your team, Rocco and Mike, we are indebted to for what we needed to do this year to prepare. And so there are many things that are prepared now, whatever day it is, August 22nd or whatever day, I can't remember. It all seems like one day. Shabbat seems different, but there's plenty of work ahead of us. But you, Amy, and you, David, have really helped us shine. And the rest of the community will really see the power of your work. I've seen it behind the scenes, and I am eternally grateful to you both. So with great pleasure and honor, I turn the mic over to you, as it were, and please teach us your wisdom. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Rabbi Craig, and good morning to everybody. Shabbat Shalom. It's an honor to be here on this Sabbath morning. Before we get too far into anything and talking about our reflections on this process so far and how we got here, I have to say that nobody has been working harder than Amy Guth on this project. And no one will continue to be working harder as she edits 1.5 terabytes of video that we have already got in the can for this production. But we'll tell you more about that.
Is that all there is, David? Is a terabyte?
That's just 1.5 terabytes. A feature film, basically.
Yeah, about feature film size.
Yeah. But we're happy to be talking about it here today because this has been a summer-long project for Amy, for me, for Rabbi, and about 9 or 10 other people on the task force. Not to mention our new executive director, Sarah Beth, who is really greasing the wheels to get us to this finish line. So we're going to kind of tell you about the origin of the project and why now and why this, and kind of what we're observing and learning from doing something completely different this year with a totally totally pre-filmed High Holidays grouping of services for you. But first, how did we start this? I will tell you my part, and Amy can tell you hers and how she got pulled into this. But essentially, as a lay leader, I was asked, back up to April. My daughter's bat mitzvah was either the first or second bat mitzvah sort of in lockdown. And we had enough time to prepare for that shift, being that it was mid-April, to do the best we could with the technology available, and did a multi-camera Zoom webinar for our friends and family across the country. And being an introvert, my daughter loved that because she didn't have to look at anything but a piece of glass lens and the faces that popped up on the webinar. But I guess having been something of a pioneer into that from our congregation, Leah said, "Hey, David, I got an idea for you. We may not be able to do services live this fall, but maybe we can. But let's just have a backup plan. And I'm going to give you a committee of people." And so she gave me a list of 10 people, one of them being Amy Guth, who I really did not know until this began. And so began our process of dreaming up a production, if you will, a service and experience that would bring all of us back together in a way that will bring warmth and connection back to our spiritual lives, our congregational lives, and will retain all the things we love about our holidays, like the music, the choir, the sermons, but everything with just a bit of a sort of a 2-month prep time. So I'll let Amy take it from here to explain a little more.
Yeah, so for my involvement in that, this is the space I work in all the time. This is the kind of work I do working in broadcast. But I also have been good friends with Leah Jones, the force that is Leah Jones, for going on 20 years now. So I know that when Leah says, I have an idea, will you listen to this? I know that you need to say yes to that, because Leah is so capable and so on top of things, and has really fostered such high trust, I think, in so many different communities, but chiefly this one. And so when she came to me with this idea, I didn't even have to consider it. I said, absolutely, this is a way that I know I can put skills to use to serve this community in a deep and meaningful way. And that really mattered to me. And that really, again, didn't even think twice. I was like, yes to Leah, yes to this. Like, absolutely. And it's been interesting to be with this. Really, we have this weekly call, and we get on by Zoom, and it's really been meaningful that we have all gotten to know each other so well. I mean, I've basically talked to David almost every day this summer, but I only met him in person for the first time yesterday, which is kind of funny to think about, that we've, been doing all this work together, and everybody has their, we quickly kind of divided who's doing what based on what everybody is good at and what everybody's passionate about, and what we could how can I bring my A game to this, and how can you bring yours? And that's how we've kind of divided it up. And it's been really meaningful. It has not been necessarily easy to reimagine this, but one goal that we had kind of from the start was, we all know what went wrong. We all know that 2020 has been a beast of a year in many ways. And so instead of thinking of this as constraints, we've really been thinking about, how do we make this meaningful and beautiful, and use it as a moment to explore how do we break through limits of, okay, we're not going to be on stage and standing together and sitting next to each other in the audience. So what does that mean? What does that what does that make available to us? And that opened up a lot of creativity and creative thinking. And we really had a lot of the initial meetings early this summer were a bunch of big brainstorms. What if we this? What if we this? Could we do this? And then thinking through after each meeting, what is the feasibility of that? What is possible? And I think that really opened, we just kind of threw everything into the pot and said, like, okay, what's possible? What can we do? And there's still ideas emerging that I think are really interesting. Just this week, we filmed with Rabbi Craig, who just did really beautiful and creative things. I have to give you a shout out right back, Rabbi, because your sermons were so creative, and you really rethought the idea of what's possible, and really took things to a different place. And they're so beautiful, and they were captured so beautifully, and the message is so beautiful that I think everybody's going to be, I'm so excited for everybody to watch all this stuff. So I think, in addition to really thinking through this in a creative way, what's been on my mind the last few days especially, and then I'm talking entirely too much, and I'm going to pass the mic back to you, David, but is that in doing this, I've essentially had like private high holidays, right? I've been standing there in the empty sanctuary from 6 to 10 feet away with individual choir singers, because they couldn't be in the room together, with Shelley individually, with Craig individually. We've done this, everybody individually. And then those of you, I know there's several of you watching who did Torah blessings and Torah readings and Haftarah blessings and things like that. You came in at an individual time. And what's really brought, the message that's really kind of come through to me is how we found a way to be together. We found a way, even though we all did this far apart, we couldn't hug each other hello, we couldn't even high five. I think I fist bumped somebody maybe, or elbow bumped or something. But we found a way to be together, and we found a way to use creativity in a very different way, and rethink what's possible, rethink even what are the limits of giving a sermon? Is it limited to standing at a bema talking? Or could other multimedia elements be involved, which I think is such a cool thing that Rabbi Craig has done. So I'm going to pause for a minute. I have another revelation that I had I want to share with you, but I don't want to hog all the time. So I'm going to pass the mic back to you for a minute, David.
And everything that you've said, Amy, is sort of my experience. Just the joy of, for me, getting much closer to the music, because one of the columns of duties that I took was the audio recording. And our engineer that we brought in has, made a makeshift recording studio out of the library, bringing in Greg Sabetta so that nobody gets left behind this year. I know that he's already, I think our engineers put in 80+ hours already between recording people's voices and editing. And so to be part of that process and to hear note by note, word by word, I have gotten closer to the music that is part of what has made this High Holidays experience so special every year for me. And to see that process in action, see how hard those people in the choir work, how difficult it is to keep everybody synced up. And that's been a real joy for me. And then of course, to watch you and your partners do your craft, bringing us really, from an idea that was going to be like a pretty good live Zoom to this cinematic experience that we're all going to experience together. That is really, I think, going to be crucial for getting us through this year.
Yeah. One thing when we first started talking about this was we were kind of imagining what does success look like? I think that was one of the first questions you asked us, David, in the first couple of meetings. Mm-hmm. And to me, there's something so ancient and sacred and beautiful about hearing the shofar for the first time every year that I feel, at the foot of Sinai with my whole community, with all of you. And I feel there's no time that I feel closer to the Jewish community than when I'm lighting Shabbat candles, knowing people are doing it around the world, and when I hear a shofar. Mm. And so my thought was, if we can capture the shofar in such a beautiful and profound way on video, that goosebumps feeling happens, that you kind of well up and you feel your heart kind of swell, and recording the shofar service separately with Cantor Shelley and with Rabbi Craig. There it is. Rabbi Craig pulled out the shofar and started playing. And it was like, and there we all are at the foot of Sinai. Another thing, I love what you said about feeling closer to the music, David, because I too have felt a different relationship to all the liturgical elements and to the music and to the meaning of things. And one thing that really stood out to me this year in a broad way that I'll be thinking about for quite a while is when we're talking about Unetana Tokef, we say it and we go through the list of, on Rosh Hashanah it is inscribed, on Yom Kippur it is sealed. We start listing ways in which we might perish in the year ahead. And some of it feels so disconnected, like wild beasts. Okay, probably not. And we think about, die by sword. Well, okay, that's a quick connection to, we think about military events and we think about war, and okay, that I can understand. But this year in particular, and I have it pulled up because this stopped me in my tracks when examining the words of Unetana Tokef, this part in particular, as we're listing this, who by famine and who by thirst, who by earthquake and who by plague.
Plague, yes.
And suddenly you go, I have a different relationship with the word plague this year. That's not about frogs and locusts and weird stuff. That's about human beings that I know. And then it goes even further and it says, who by strangulation and who by stoning? Who shall have rest and who shall wander? Who shall be at peace and who shall be pursued? Who shall be at rest and who shall be tormented? Who shall be exalted and who shall be brought low? I mean that, and even who shall become rich and who shall become impoverished? Suddenly we're in a moment in which the racial justice movement is re-energized and swelling in numbers, and in which we are in rapid social change. We have an election looming in November. There's so much going. And so I say all that not to say me, here's my experience, but to say my hope is that what we accomplish this year is not, oh gosh, I have to watch the High Holidays on a small screen, I can't sit here with everybody. That in fact, we might have an opportunity to go even deeper by sitting with the material in a deeper and more profound way, and connecting with it more personally, maybe in our own home environment, and really kind of be stopped in our tracks. Maybe that's by a shofar blast. Maybe that's by words that mean something different this year. So to me, that's kind of the hope of.
Well, yeah, even the word plague. I mean, when we say plague, it's going to mean something different, something visceral, something lived this year, right?
Yeah, in a very big way. So I'm really excited to start sharing bits and pieces with people. You will see what we don't have to get into the particulars too much for Shabbat. Let's keep it Shabbat-y, right? But there'll be kind of blocks that you can watch, so you can kind of go back and, hey, I want to see that part again. Hey, what Rabbi Craig just said was powerful. I want to hear that again. You'll have the power to kind of underline it a little bit in a different way.
Not only do I want to hear that again, but I want to send that to my aunt in New York, know? Right. And you can do that.
Yeah. So I hope that we do everyone proud this year. I feel really proud and excited of just, we wrapped in the biz, what we'd say, principal photography, pretty much. We got it all. We got the bulk of it shot. There'll be some voiceover, there'll be some other elements to add. And of course the editing is about to start, and that'll be a deep dive of things. But I'm really grateful to everybody on the task force that you've put together, David, and of course the clergy and the board and everybody that's been so supportive of this idea of like, hey, what if we did this? Hey, what if it was like this? And of course to Leah, who kind of championed this early and who was really thinking of our well-being and said early on, I don't think it's going to be safe to be together at the high holidays. How can we be together anyway? And how can we have the building closed, but the synagogue open? I think that's a phrase that she's repeated over and over that I think is really important for us to be thinking of right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just to give credit where it's due, I did not put this team of experts together. That really was Leah and her knowledge of the people and the personalities and the skill sets of our congregation. Something that she knows more of than I do. But it was, there was no way I was going to say no when she said, here are the list of names. I was like, this is great. This is a dream team. And so we set out from the very beginning, giving everybody responsibilities within their skill sets or sets of skills they wanted to push and try to do new things with. And this summer-long project has given us that ability and that flexibility. And I've just been so proud to watch everybody kind of expand, in that way. So.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Amy, David, kol hakavod to you both. Not only for all the hard work so far, but just this beautiful way of capturing the essence of this powerful and transformative work. One of the things I find myself most proud about is how this work and how each of you and the volunteers that have supported you and the professionals, we brought up Rocco and Mike. I want to add Dimitro, our sound engineer, mixer extraordinaire. We've been very lucky to be able to do this work because in many ways it represents exactly what I hope for us as a community that is technically small in size, but actually big in heart. I really want the outcome of our experience to be big and inspiring and to be amazing and even hard to believe, but summons in us tremendous gratitude for the strength of our volunteers and not only their strength and commitment, but their creativity and their commitment to transforming our legacy institution into something even more spectacular than it's been for 141 years. And I feel like with your help, we have really made tremendous strides, and I am humbled and grateful for your contributions. And I know that we will reflect well as a community, and we will find ways, even in virtual space, to draw people into as close a connection as we can create. And of course, we will pray at the end of these upcoming high holidays. Like I said last night, normally we finish a service, Nila service with Next Year in Jerusalem. I think it's fair to say that in 5782, we hope to be back at 5959 North Sheridan. So we'll close 5781's Neela with next year at 5959 North Sheridan. So looking forward to that. But we have a lot of amazing things happening before that. So that's all for now. Let us continue with Haftorah. Thank